In every life, there comes a moment when the world around you feels both familiar and strangely distant. You see the light of your daily routines, the comfort of your habits, the shadows of your fears, yet something inside whispers that there is more. Something deeper, hidden, just beyond the reach of ordinary sight. Ibn Arabi, the great mystic of Andalusia, spoke of this threshold between light and shadow. To him, the world was never simply what it appeared to be. He said, "What you see is only a reflection. Behind every reflection lies the hidden source." And this is where the journey begins. Not in the noise of the marketplace, not in the comfort of success, but in that quiet question rising inside you: am I really awake, or am I still walking in shadows? Think about it. How often do you confuse the glow of the lamp for the sun, the applause of people for true peace, the shadow of love for love itself? We hold on to these images so tightly that we forget the essence they point to. Ibn Arabi reminds us, the shadow is not false, it is real, but it is not the whole truth. The light casts the shadow, and unless you turn toward the light, you will mistake the shadow for the reality. This hidden path he speaks of is not marked on maps. It cannot be taught like a formula or memorized like a book. It must be walked. And the first step is silence, the courage to pause, to let go of the constant chatter of the mind. Ibn Arabi tells us that when the mind falls quiet, the heart begins to hear. What does it hear? Not a booming voice, not commands from above, but the subtle echo of the one who has always been with you, Allah. But walking this path is not easy. Between light and shadow, the human heart trembles. The ego wants control, the self clings to comfort. Fear tells you to stay in the dark because it feels safe, yet the hidden path calls you forward. Ibn Arabi said, "The one who walks this way must be willing to lose everything. Only then will they realize that nothing was ever truly theirs." Imagine standing between the warmth of sunlight and the chill of darkness. Every step forward is a choice. Do I remain in what is familiar, or do I risk stepping into the unknown? Ibn Arabi's answer is clear. The unknown is where Allah reveals himself. Shadows are only there to guide you toward the light. And this is why his teachings still shake us today. He does not invite you to abandon the world, but to see through it. To recognize that every face, every event, every joy, and every sorrow is a veil, sometimes of light, sometimes of shadow, through which Allah speaks to the heart. The hidden path is not somewhere far away. It is here, right now, in the way you breathe, in the way you choose, in the way you listen. So, brother, if you've ever felt that the world you see is not the whole story, you are already standing at the edge of this path. The only question is, will you walk it? Stay with us here on Ibn Arabi's legacy, because this journey between light and shadow is not just Ibn Arabi's, it is yours. Subscribe, and let's keep walking this hidden path together. When Ibn Arabi spoke of walking between light and shadow, he was not describing an abstract philosophy. He was pointing to the reality of your everyday life, the tension between what appears and what truly is. Look closely. Every smile hides a shadow of sorrow. Every joy carries within it the seed of fear. Every comfort whispers the possibility of loss. To Ibn Arabi, this was no accident. Allah placed light and shadow side by side so that the human being would never confuse the veil with the source. He said, "The shadow is not a lie, it is a sign. It exists to remind you that there is something greater casting it." And so, when your heart trembles in fear or breaks under sorrow, he would say, "Do not run away, do not curse the shadow, turn your face toward the light that created it." But how do we do this? How do we live in a world of shadows without being swallowed by them? Ibn Arabi gives us a key: silence. Not the silence of the lips, but the silence of the heart. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm, winds tearing through the trees, waves crashing against the shore. The storm is your thoughts, your fears, your doubts. And yet deep inside, there is a still center, a calm eye of the storm. That stillness is where the heart listens. And in that stillness, Allah speaks, not in shouts, not in dramatic visions, but in a whisper that shakes your very being. Have you ever felt it? A sudden peace that descends without reason. A clarity that comes in the middle of confusion. A strength to forgive when you thought you could never forgive. That is not your ego. That is not your mind. That is the trace of Allah in the silence of your heart. Ibn Arabi reminds us that the ego will always resist this silence. The ego thrives in noise. It wants to argue, to control, to predict, to dominate. It is terrified of stillness because in silence the ego disappears. And so, it invents distractions, endless plans, endless worries, endless desires. It makes you think that without them, you are nothing. But Ibn Arabi turns this upside down. He says, when you lose everything, you discover that nothing was ever yours. And in that loss, you meet the one who truly owns all things. Think about your life. How often have you felt empty, only to fill that emptiness with more noise, music, conversation, screens, endless scrolling? How often have you mistaken busyness for purpose? Ibn Arabi would say, the path begins the moment you dare to be still, the moment you dare to face the silence without running away. Because in that silence, Allah is waiting. But this journey is not only about silence, it is also about vision, seeing the world as a veil rather than an end. To Ibn Arabi, everything you encounter is a sign. Every person is a mirror. Every event is a message. If you are hurt, ask what truth is being revealed. If you are blessed, ask what gratitude is being called forth. He would tell you, do not stop at the surface. Look deeper, for every shadow conceals a light, and every light comes from Allah. And this changes everything. Suddenly, life is no longer random. Pain is no longer meaningless. Success is no longer a trap. Everything becomes a conversation between you and Allah. A conversation written not in words, but in moments, in births and deaths, in meetings and partings, in tears and laughter. Now imagine this. You are walking through a dark valley. You cannot see the road. You are afraid of every sound. And then, in the distance, you notice a flicker of light. It is small, fragile, almost drowned by the darkness. Yet your heart knows that light is enough. It does not remove the valley, it does not erase the fear, but it shows you where to step next. Ibn Arabi says, this is how guidance works. Allah does not always give you the full map. He gives you just enough light for the next step. And that step leads to another and another until you realize you are never walking alone. Between light and shadow, then, the path is not about escaping the world but seeing through it. The shadow of loss teaches you the value of love. The shadow of fear awakens the need for trust. The shadow of death makes life itself sacred. To reject the shadow is to reject the very lessons that lead you to Allah. So, what does it mean to walk this hidden path? It means living with open eyes and a surrendered heart. It means recognizing that every shadow points to a light, and every light is a gift from Allah. It means walking through the illusions of this world without being deceived by them. And above all, it means trusting that even in your darkest night, the one who cast the stars still walks beside you. And so Ibn Arabi reminds us, the path is not outside of you, it is within you. Between light and shadow, between silence and noise, between fear and trust, there lies the hidden road. Every step you take is not just a movement through time, but a movement toward Allah. Ask yourself, what shadows still bind you? What lights still call you? And can you dare to be silent long enough to hear the voice that has always been there? Waiting, guiding, loving. Remember, the shadow is not your enemy, it is a signpost. The light is not just comfort, it is a doorway. And the one who cast both light and shadow is closer to you than your own breath. This is the legacy of Ibn Arabi, to see the world not as an illusion to escape, but as a mirror through which Allah reveals Himself. If these words touched your heart, then this journey is for you. Join us here at Ibn Arabi's Legacy. Subscribe, walk with us, and let's continue exploring the hidden truths together. Because the path is long, but it was never meant to be walked alone.